What's up, fight fans? Welcome back to the Rear Naked Choke. We've got a loaded one today, and we're starting with the story that's already got the whole MMA world arguing. Nate Diaz is back outside calling for big fights, and both Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier have already reacted. And real quick, if you like these daily updates, hit like right now. It helps this video reach more fight fans. All right, let's jump in. TMZ Sports caught up with Nate Diaz, and he didn't tiptoe around it. He said he wants to get back into real action and threw out three names: McGregor 3, Dustin Poirier, and Mike Perry. He also said he'd be down to fight on the UFC White House card. Now here's the thing with Nate. When he throws names out, it's not always because he's already got something locked. A lot of it is him putting pressure on the UFC and seeing what sticks. But this time, it actually sparked reactions fast. Dustin responded on X with a short message, and Nate came back with a crude reply pretty much instantly. And Conor reposted the McGregor 3 idea too, which is exactly what Conor does when he sees a big money lane open. So let me ask you straight. If you're the UFC, do you book McGregor versus Diaz 3 for the White House card, or do you save it for its own huge pay-per-view later? Now staying on Conor, because this is fresh. Conor posted that he's been offered an opponent and a date, and he says he accepted it, but he's waiting on the contract. Then the post got deleted, which obviously made people even more interested. That's a very Conor move. Drop it, let it explode, delete it, and now everyone else has to do the promo for him. But the key part is this: he's claiming there's an actual offer on the table. And with the UFC White House event coming up, the timing makes sense if the UFC wants one or two mainstream names on a short stacked card. Dana also gave an update that adds fuel here. He's saying the White House card is built, and they're putting it together as a special event with a limited number of fights. So when you hear the card is built, that doesn't mean every contract is signed and sealed.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we laid out two different options. I didn't say it was done. I said the card was built. Yeah. It's done. I'm not talking about the White House card.
But it does mean the UFC already has a clear plan for what they want, which is why Conor saying he accepted something suddenly feels more believable than it did a month ago. Big headline that still matters this week: Cain Velasquez has been released on parole. Multiple outlets confirmed the date as February 15th, 2026. Whatever people think about the case, Cain is one of the most important heavyweights in UFC history. This is a huge life moment, and it's one of those stories that hits way bigger than MMA. Now for this weekend, UFC is back with Strickland versus Anthony Fluffy Hernandez headlining in Houston. Hernandez responded to one of Strickland's controversial posts by saying he's going to torture him in the cage. Now the wildest announcement of the week: Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano is officially happening, promoted by Most Valuable Promotions, and it's streaming on Netflix on May 16th, 2026. Ronda is openly framing it like a challenge to the UFC's new Paramount era, basically saying this could outdraw UFC events because Netflix is huge. And Gina's coach has been out saying she's taking it seriously, that it's not just a money grab. Whether you love it or hate it, this is a real combat sports moment. Netflix getting into MMA with a recognizable name is a big deal. So I want your honest take. Do you actually want to see Ronda versus Gina in 2026? And if it happens, who wins? Another big storyline tied to the White House card is the ongoing speculation around Islam Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria, a fight that a lot of fans believe could be one of the biggest in the sport right now. For weeks, people have been talking about the possibility of Ilia moving up to lightweight to challenge Islam, especially after the run he's been on and the way he's been finishing elite opponents. Stylistically, it's the kind of matchup that instantly creates debate. Islam's dominant grappling and control against Ilia's timing, precision, and knockout power. But according to recent reports and people close to the situation, that fight is not expected to happen on the White House card, even though it would have been one of the most historic fights you could put on an event like that. And when you think about it, it makes sense. The UFC isn't just building another pay-per-view. This White House card is a once-in-a-lifetime promotional opportunity. They're likely trying to spread out their biggest fights across multiple events rather than stacking everything on one night. A fight like Islam versus Ilia is so massive that it could headline its own standalone card and carry months of promotion on its own. There's also the timing factor. Both fighters are at points in their careers where the UFC will want full training camps, proper build-up, and maximum hype. Rushing it onto a specific date, even one as historic as the White House event, might not be the smartest move long term. But make no mistake, this fight is still very much alive as a future possibility. Ilia has made it clear he wants the biggest names available, and Islam has never backed down from a challenge. If both keep winning, the pressure from fans alone could make this inevitable. So even if it's not happening at the White House, this is one of those matchups you should keep your eye on, because if it gets announced later this year, it instantly becomes one of the biggest fights in UFC history. And honestly, I want to know your take on this one. Who wins if Islam and Ilia actually fight? And here's another important update from just the past few days that's flying a little under the radar. The UFC has been actively filling out the March 28th Seattle card, and it's shaping up to be a seriously important event, especially because it's headlined by Israel Adesanya versus Joe Pyfer. This fight alone carries massive implications. For Israel Adesanya, this isn't just another main event, this is a career-defining moment.
I'll say for me, it's not really about him. This is about me. This is the bigger fight of his life. It's the biggest fight of my life in another aspect, not in the way for him as it is for me. Because I've been sitting at the top, still at the top, you know? I'm doing more than a lot of guys who are even champions, you know? But yeah, for him, this is a moment that he has to really lock in. And this is a moment that I have to really lock in as well, but not for the same reasons. So yeah, I welcome the challenge, and I'll make sure the best man wins.
He's coming off multiple losses, and for the first time in years, there are real questions about where he stands in the division. A win here doesn't just put him back in the win column, it re-establishes him as a legitimate threat to the top of the middleweight division again. But a loss? That could completely change the trajectory of his career moving forward. And on the other side, Joe Pyfer has everything to gain and nothing to lose. This is the biggest fight of his life by far. Beating a former champion like Adesanya instantly launches him into contender status overnight. It's the classic veteran versus rising contender storyline, and historically, these are the fights where new stars are born. But it's not just the main event that makes this card interesting. Over the last few days, multiple additional bouts have been confirmed and added to the lineup, and you can see the UFC is stacking this card with meaningful fights that could shape multiple divisions. They're clearly treating this as more than just a fight night. It feels like a turning point card where several fighters could break into contender conversations. This is also significant because it gives us a clearer look at the UFC's roadmap over the next few months. Every result on this card has ripple effects. A dominant win from Adesanya puts him right back into big fight discussions. A breakout performance from Pyfer creates a brand new contender, and strong showings from fighters lower on the card could completely reshuffle rankings. And from a fan perspective, this is exactly the kind of event that's easy to overlook at first, but ends up delivering huge moments, because cards like this are where narratives change, where fighters reinvent themselves, and where the next wave of stars begins their rise. So make sure you're paying attention to this Seattle card, because by the time it's over, the middleweight division could look very different. And that's where things stand right now. But honestly, the situation is changing fast, especially with the White House card, multiple title fights in the works, and several fighters already calling each other out. This could end up being one of the craziest stretches in UFC history. But I want to know what you think. Do you think Cain Velasquez makes a return to MMA now that he's free? And who should Islam Makhachev fight next? Comment your thoughts below. I'm also working on some cinematic fighter highlight edits right now, so comment the fighter you want to see. I might pick yours for the next project. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like it. It really helps push these videos to more MMA fans and helps the channel grow. I'll see you in the next one.